true to what you said on paper.
Well, good morning. Good morning. It is Juneteenth weekend this weekend. But, I think what gets lost in the sauce, too, is that it's actually Father's Day weekend. And
happy Father's Day.
Look, he didn't even right. See, it doesn't get the same billing as Mother's Day.
Sorry.
But
I'm not a pop, so I
tell people it's not an official title. It's in the deed, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you are. There's a lot of young
men
and women who have benefited from your wisdom as a mentor, because there are a lot of people who planted the seed but never stayed around to watch it grow.
Very true. Very true.
So I don't want to leave you out of this, because you do a lot of great work out there, and it should be acknowledged. And so you're in the club.
Thank you. Part of the club.
Appreciate that. As well as my big brother over there.
Yes.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, brother.
Happy Father's Day.
I don't think I'm on.
Neither is this mic. I don't think.
There we go.
Yours should be on.
All right, check this. Okay, maybe it's
there we go.
Yeah. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, mine is on. Yes.
Don't worry. So before we go, we want to thank our sponsor, the Money Store. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 508-345-4726. That's 508-345-4726. Also, want to thank Cruz Construction for their continued support, as well as MAMLEO's membership and the leadership there at MAMLEO for continuing to keep this broadcast going. And if you want to support Boston Praise Radio and TV, Brother Rhodes?
Yes, it is always available at Cash App, capital BPRTV. And then that's how you can always show your support online. And again, of course, you can always come send your checks to 670 Washington Street to Global Ministries. Christian Church, and they can accept your support in many ways, shapes, and forms.
And no donation is too small.
Yes.
And Helen has arrived.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, with her light on.
I know, right?
She needs to clear the way. So again, and Pastor Hobbs, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm well. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, sir. And while we're here, because I have the Bible in front of me, he's reminding us to pray.
And you're holding it in the right direction.
Right? I wonder what that's akin to.
Oh my goodness.
The plane. Pastor Hobbs, sir.
Sure. Father God, we thank you for your grace, for your mercy, for being all powerful, all knowing, and our constant, perfect help of source. So we come to you once again, asking you to do what only you can do. Bless us, bless this broadcast, bless our lives. Be glorified in and through all that's said and done. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I want to say again, you're listening to At the Brown Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. To my right, my sister Helen is here, Brother Rhodes is here, and the doctor is in the house. So folks who are always, when that seat is empty over there, they're like, where's Dr. Bradley? Where's Dr. Bradley?
He's here.
Well, he's here. This is not a rebroadcast. We are live this morning. It's the weekend of Juneteenth. Exactly, it's the weekend again. It's Father's Day. And we're going to just kind of freestyle it this morning. We're going to say hello to some of our listeners, our local avid listeners, but we're going to talk about Juneteenth. It's not just a barbecue.
No, it's not.
We treat everything as a social and a learning.
Just so we know as well, like for the 8 o'clock hour, we do have Shea Justice coming in, and then he's going to talk about his display at the ICA. It stands for the International Contemporary Art Museum by Seaport.
Okay.
All right. So
All right.
They actually had a great Juneteenth celebration there yesterday. Like, as a matter of fact, all the museums are open yesterday for Juneteenth.
This is where I kind of take issue. Like I said, I'm not going to get too far in it, because I will come right back to it. Is that I was talking to Dr. Bradley before we came on the air. I don't buy into this one day, we celebrate, and then the next day we go back to doing nothing, right? It should be.
And that's a good point. You said something about that, right? Like, so Juneteenth in June, we have our,
Black History Month.
Yeah, Black History Month.
Asian
we have our
Month.
Cultural History Month and so forth. But it's almost like, I think we've had this conversation before, right? Right. How do we keep that learning and that, because that is, we've talked about it so many times. It's the education and the history. We got to know our history. We got to learn our history, and we got to really keep that going, and rather than have it just like, oh, we're done for the month. Or
Well,
we're done
also,
for the day.
it's like we're getting a permission structure from the other side as to when we
when we can celebrate.
Right?
Yeah,
and when it's
exactly.
over. Like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, and even I don't know if you saw, the Herald was covering that. One of the Diane Wilkinson has become one of the more vocal critics of what's been going on with
Pastor Hobbs is going to tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, exactly.
And how Michelle Wu and Governor Healy hijacked the Juneteenth event, right? And instead of having it be celebrating, in terms of with the community, it's like they end up inviting politicians and so forth. But I don't want to steal.
No. That's the
Yeah.
leader. No, exactly. It's like, again,
and those are very, again, all poignant points and everything. And I'm glad that you brought those things up, because that's one of the things that we definitely talked to the people about yesterday when we were at the celebration, and some people were willing to acknowledge that that is something that should be definitely looked at. But
hold those thoughts. Don't lose them.
Yes.
Just want to say good. No, we're just going to say good morning to a few folks. Good morning to Brother T. Michael Thomas and the People's Academy.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Scales. Good morning, Brother Jamal. Good morning, Brother Dicker, Brother Cliff. Good morning, Michelle. Michelle, thank you for sending that out yesterday about Juneteenth. I said I don't get excited about those things. I appreciate people, but I'm like, we should be having and acknowledging our presence every single day. We're a multicultural country, and they're trying to push it back to where it looks one way. And when we buy into that, okay, so what do we do after today? Like, we got to get it all in within these 24 hours. No, we don't. So, folks, and we're going to get into that a little bit more this morning about what Juneteenth means, if anything. Again, and for all the dads out there, and even if you're not a biological dad like Brother Rhodes, happy Father's Day weekend, because like I said, I know that gets lost in the sauce. People are like, "Oh, Father's Day, yeah, okay." And, it's
Hallmark doesn't forget it.
they profit from it.
Exactly.
Or anyone else trying to sell something.
They profit from it. So,
well, they're the ones that actually made it a legal holiday. Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those days just to sell more cards.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
We're going to go back to Indiana in a second, but yes.
I guess
He's
we're
going. He's going.
like the Energizer Bunny. We're having some technical. Good morning, Brother Bridgeworth. Must be still a little, what it is, that little of that residual of that storm that came through Indiana. I hope he's okay down there. So, I know the weather's been bad. In fact, we had a little gust come through here the other night.
I actually felt good. Like yesterday, the wind, although it was nice and sunny, but having the wind there, it was it was a little cooling effect
The
to
weather
it.
was perfect.
I thought so. Yes.
Good for soccer. Good for the soccer
Yes.
players out there. But
Golf too.
it wasn't good for the tree in my yard that's on the ground that I have to go deal with after this. No, it's not. Too much at one time is not good enough. So, again, you're listening at the Roundtable with MAMLEO. The calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. It's the meaning of Juneteenth. I like the fact that President Obama and the First Lady, Michelle Obama, kicked off Juneteenth, but I love the way they structured the center. It's not about a library and a shrine to him. It is about learning from the time you walk through the door.
Yes.
And I do plan on taking my children. And I say, those are the type of things where we should be collaborating, right? To bring some of our young people, raising the money, if you're not close enough, for us to take trips there.
Yes.
Right? And exposing our young people to understand the struggle is not over.
No, it's not. It's not. Absolutely not.
Because I like the way they end it when you go up to the top and, it's like, okay, now what? There's nothing really there. It's like you need to fill in the blank. We're not telling the whole story. And I thought that was the power there. And now I can see why the orange man, Donald Trump, is so envious of former President Barack Obama, because he will never match him with everything he's tried to do to emulate him has been a failure.
Yes.
A failure.
Absolutely. Well, the idea that Obama says, like, he empowers the people, and he says it's citizenship, the democracy doesn't work without you, the citizens, and it's up to you guys to actually do something. And so that's, I think, was very clear and outlined message that it's a call to action, that you can't just be part of the democracy and not be participating in it. You have to be a part of it.
And that's a lot of what we've talked about for so long, right? We've talked about how it's like, it's about each person as much as it's so easy to fall into apathy, so easy to be like, oh, my vote's not going to count. But at the same time, if you take yourself out of the running, if you don't even register to vote, and if you are registered to vote, you don't even go out to vote, you're taking yourself out of the running.
Well, see,
right?
to that point, Helen, that's the plan, to beat you down, beat you into submission, right?
And you gotta not let them.
But historically, that's what they did when one slave did something they didn't beat them privately. They put publicly
so that to scare
to the rest
exactly
of you, right?
Psychological warfare.
And
This is what you get if you even think.
And now it's socioeconomic warfare, right? It's increasing your taxes into the double digits, so you're so busy scurrying to pay for your bills, the roof over your house, the
gas.
food on your gas, food on your plate, that sometimes you might even forget to be like, oh no, did I register? Oh no, do I have time to go out and vote?
And then, so one of the things that, again, at the Juneteenth celebration, there were a lot of nonprofits that were there organizing. I don't know if you ever heard of Jumanji, Boston. Yeah. Okay, they were there. This other program for rent control, and I went to every table and I said, "How come you guys do not have a way for people to register and vote?" And the light bulb clicked in. It was like, that should be a subpart of your every event that you do. It should be. And I said, this should be the Juneteenth spark. Yeah. And I gave them the flyer for that Ron Bell had developed, because I remember we had talked about this, about making Juneteenth start matter. And I went to every table and they were like, "Yeah, absolutely right." And so I got contact information, sent them the flyer, because all they had to do now is have the QR code and people can start to register to vote right from their phone. And I'm like,
I would argue, thank you, because when you were talking, I was thinking about why first it was a registration table. But I think at that table should also be an education table.
That flyer, the one that you had. That was a really good one with all the different years and all the different legislation. So key moments in history.
Yes,
I think, and that's the way I'm going. You should have these key moments of history, and at the very end of that, this is why you need to vote.
Educate, enlighten, and a call to action.
Yeah, what we tend to do is talk about registration, but that's only half of the puzzle. You got to show.
Right.
You mentioned it, and I can tell you from doing right over here polls, very few people of color show up. And that's when you're losing in democracy. You begin to lose your positioning when you're not voting.
Well, and to your point, you're right. You're spot on. All of you this morning. Like I said, you guys must have had coffee with caffeine this morning, because you guys are rolling on all cylinders. And we're going to get to you in 1 second, I promise. Because Dr. Belly, when you just said it, made me think about when you were former president of MAMLEO as well as I. It's where I met Helen. Is that people, when you ask them to join MAMLEO, before something happens to them, they're like, well, why do I need why do I need that now, right? It's like, well, it's insurance. Like, you can't go get insurance on your car or your home and it burns down or you have an accident, right? They're like, it's too late, because the problem is already there. And so I say that because that's the analogy, is that we tend to think, well, no one's bothering me. But I always say, and keep saying, we need to put on a T-shirt. If you're here long enough, you'll get a turn. And so I like the education piece, and because I think that will get people to execute the actual voting rather than just register, because a lot of people register.
But they don't know why.
Follow through.
What about a countdown clock, right? We have a countdown clock, and we kind of remind each other, like, hey, this many months, this many weeks, this many days, we're getting close.
Because that flyer,
get a friend, buddy system, and go on down to your voting location.
The same way you do when they're ready to go to the club, they call all their friends to see who wants to go, right? The same way when
pregame, if you have to go vote
on social media, right? If something happens, everybody is sharing in an abundance.
In other countries, the national election is actually a national holiday, right? So that way, you have no excuse not to go vote.
Funny that you say that. I actually found out today, the other day, for Rhode Island, they recognize Election Day as a holiday.
Oh, nice!
Yeah, wow.
Well, all right, some states, you do know why Rhode Island was formed, right? Because
Why? It was because
the
Roger
Pilgrims were
Williams.
so uptight that they were going to kill Roger Williams for praying a different way. They were like, when they came here, they outlawed all other religions. So the Native Americans, nobody else could pray. They had to pray the way the Pilgrims pray. And then Roger Williams was like, can I pray my way? They're like, no, we're going to kill you. So that's why he ran and formed Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's why we have religious freedom in this country.
That's a Providence.
Yes.
Providence.
Well, it's Rhode Island Providence Plantations.
Wow.
That's the official name. That's why in Trivial Pursuit it has the longest name of all the states. People don't realize it's not just Rhode Island. It's Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. That's the full official name of the state.
The history here is unbelievable, and you guys are great. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. I just need Dr. Bradley's help because
we can't-
he's a historical scholar.
Or is it just me?
Juneteenth to me is very important, but I agree with what you said that it was hijacked by the mayor and the governor. So let me lay this out.
Okay.
Nobody cared, politically speaking, when Juneteenth here in Massachusetts was a non-holiday, yeah? But when it became an official holiday in 2021, thanks to Joe Biden, shout out to Joe Biden, by the way, now everybody cared about it, saying, oh, we as the Foundation of Black Americans can now celebrate our holiday, yeah? Here in Massachusetts. And other parts of the country, especially the South, Juneteenth is a state holiday, yeah? So here, we kind of we sometimes feel like we're going backwards instead of going forwards. But at the same time, yes, Larry, we should be moving forward as in terms of it shouldn't just be one day, yeah? We should educate that Juneteenth was a very important day in 1865 for how the slaves in Galveston, Texas was finally notified that they were finally free, yeah? Even though I'm not getting into more details about that because you got to do your homework, that we still are far behind in terms of economics, politics, religion, and everything in between.
Well, that was a situation even after Granger announced it. So what happened was, first of all, people missed this piece too. There were 10,000 black soldiers there with him. There were 10,000 black men armed with Granger when he arrived in Galveston because you needed that level of authority to enforce it. Now, this is the hit. When he announced it, it was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was already issued. All right, 2.5 years after.
So they've been still working as slaves,
they were working as slaves for 2.5 years, and then when they announced it, the masters at the time said, "Well, wait a second, we'll hold off on that and to after the harvest." Granger was like, "No, you can't hold off on this now." And if you think about it, there's a connection here even to this day, you know. And so what ended up happening was the slave plantation owners were like, "Okay, they're free. This is the connection. They're free." So the very next day, they were like, "Okay, what do we do now?
Right.
How do we eat? Where do we sleep?"
Right.
So they were like, "You gotta go. You know, we're not paying. Or you have to have a contract with me where you're gonna do this work for this amount of money." And it was
indentured slave.
Yeah, exactly. So what he's saying here is really true. Is that the southern states tend to get into, I should say, the black community in the southern states tend to get into Juneteenth a little bit more often than we do, a little bit more robust than we do. Now, I don't celebrate the 4th of July.
Neither do I.
The 4th of July in 1776, we were not free.
Right. Right.
We were not. I mean, you had a bunch of hypocrites who were actually fighting for freedom while they were enslaving. You see what I'm saying? So I don't get into that, but Juneteenth is a significant holiday.
And
for
one
black
would
people.
question: are we free? Has that message resonated? Has everyone still received the message that we're free?
No.
Right? Because we still act in a way that is not.
So many of those laws, like they were free, but again, if they were imprisoned or if they were jailed, that gave them reasons to now the state can have a state-sponsored slave because they were imprisoned.
Well, I mean, that's one hit, but the other hit is you can be free. It's many ways of freedom. You can be free physically, but incarcerated mentally.
Yes.
You know, and that's where I think we are.
Well, also we're still whatever shackled with poverty. They gave us they took off the physical chains, but they basically
enslaved the
us
mind.
Enslaved the mind, but also enslaved us in poverty. Like, okay, you're in constant debt. You owe us. So it's like we're always constantly trying to work to pay off. So.
And even part of that emancipation, it's like it wasn't true emancipation for everyone across the entire country.
No. And that's the other thing. That's a good hit, Helen. This is a very good hit because I think people tend to say, "Well, Lincoln free." No, Lincoln did not free you.
No, the war was not about slavery.
No, it was about. See, the thing is
that's
that
the myth.
So if you were a Confederate state and you were not rebelling against the Union, you could have slaves. A good example of that would be Missouri, Kentucky, Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia. They all had them.
They all had slaves
because they were not rebelling.
Yes,
it was only issued against the states who were rebelling.
Yes,
period. And Texas was one of those.
And the states that he didn't have any control over.
Yeah.
So it was almost like it was more of a gesture than it was actually anything with legal authority or power.
And oh, by the way, he had issued years before an emancipation proclamation into the District of Columbia, and he paid restitution to those owners, $300 per person, $300 per head to slave owners for releasing their property. So now you're talking about a situation where the government paid slave owners, a lot like what happened with Haiti.
And also in Britain.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening was he paid them for for losing their slaves, but he did not pay the slaves who actually enslaved.
Slaves, yes.
Oh, by the way, those slaves owners were renting those slaves to the government to build the White House.
Sherman, he didn't want the slaves in the army with him. And after it got to a certain point, he gave them, some land so he can get rid of them because they said he didn't want them around him. I think that's why they don't want people to understand the real history of this country and what we're talking about here today, that this country is still not favorable to people that look like us. And I'm talking about all of us here at this table.
Well, think about even early on, right? When we had, after that, redlining, when it came to mortgages, districting, when we have certain, even cultural centers, I know historically, at least from, my cultural perspective, there used to be so many Chinatowns in this country that a lot of them were built along the lines of the railroad, but so many of them are gone now. Do you know why? Because they were burnt to the ground. But some of them were burnt to the ground twice over. They rebuilt them and they burnt them again to the ground.
We're going to go back to Dick in a second. But Helen, I want to piggyback on what you're saying, because that is how they have been this division, right? Because when you labeled it as Chinatown, then folks felt like they weren't welcome, right? That I never said, oh, let me go down to Chinatown, see if I can make some friends, right? Because I felt like this was like a community that was walled off. It's like busing, South Boston. When I went to school during busing, South Boston was like we had these imaginary but real lines. If you were a person of color, you didn't go past Andrew Square, right?
But Chinatowns were formed because there were no other parts of the city or the areas of those towns that they felt welcome. So they kind of basically got pushed into these little areas where it was like, okay, this is where nobody bothers us. We're safe.
I think also
that they were formed out of necessity and survival. It wasn't meant to close off.
But that's the appearance that it gave, right? Because what it did is it promoted this division that other folks wanted. That was exactly where I'm going. Exactly,
with it. Yeah.
because you should not be sitting here with us, Brother Rhodes, who should not be sitting here. We should not be collaborating because
I hear you. I hear you, Larry. But one of the things that I find to be very interesting, that doesn't apply when you're talking about Little Italy.
No,
it doesn't apply when you're talking about Southie. It doesn't apply when you're talking about Brighton, the Russian community. And one of the things that I think that I'm kind of piggyback on what happened with Scotland. I still think they're impressive. They can outdrink the Irish.
Oh my goodness! Could you believe that? Three times they've run out of beer. They drink 3 times the amount of beer that they've done on St. Patrick's Day. And there's no sloppy drunks, no rest.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah,
they're well behaved.
And with Boston being known as the drunkest city in the country year over year over year.
It's amazing.
But they can show how you can actually drink and be drunk and not be an absolute.
Yes. And it seems like the tea has been running 24/7 for them while the guests are here. Yeah. How come we don't get to say the 24/7 tea service? Well, apparently it can be done,
for certain people.
Right? Interesting.
And so I'm going to value. That way I was going with that. It tend to value certain people partying as opposed to other
Other
folks.
people.
They tend to value certain
Yeah.
communities as opposed to other.
Well,
And
yeah.
that's where
That's a great
where
point
the-
yeah,
because
and
if
even-
Carnival was people were drinking all night, right? There'd be a problem.
Yeah.
There'd be
Yeah.
police raiding the place,
or
even
just
before they
standing there
ran.
ahead of time.
But even before they ran out of the beer, they'd be
Wow,
confiscated.
that's a really interesting point.
That's a good point.
That is a real no, because it is. It's like it seems like some cultures are celebrated when they have their. It's a part of it's this shit. It's something. It's part of the culture, and other people it's like, oh no, it's too rowdy. It's
Look
a
at-
security
look
issue.
Look at even Michelle Wu. They have it all over Twitter and everything else, where it's like she even talks about how she even participated in some of the antics with the quote unquote Tartan Army, and then even on June 18th, dedicated. What was it? Boston, I believe it was something along the lines of like Boston being, sister city to Glasgow, exactly, and pandering to the Scots.
Wow.
Right on just June 18th,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
day before. It's like, okay, so when you have all of this, it's like she's gonna go out, serve them beer, and
I mean,
like,
I really don't. I'm not going to cut you off, sis, but I really enjoy the bagpipes and all that stuff, But
The kills in the culture.
But when you stop and you look at it, and you start to critically think about it. Why can't I have that same level of support when the Asian community is partying or the Haitian community?
Yeah, because it's like
why is it got to be a problem
An
when they're
enforcement.
doing- and why you have to have police officers and the police officer instructor, you don't participate,
Right.
You just stand stern, but yet you have officers moving soccer balls and doing all those things that that
We
these
want
people
them to
do.
feel welcome.
Yeah. So that's where the bigotry comes in.
Well, that's, but we allow it.
Yes.
So Ditka, before I think like this should be a call to service, right? Juneteenth should not be,
Thank you.
because if you think about it, folks, even where most people are going to gather today up in Franklin Park, right? That has been a lot of that real estate has been taken away from folks up there, right?
Yeah.
So that should show you that, okay, first you were able to go up there and you pretty much had the run of the place, and now you're designated to
like
a little corner, a little sliver
Mm-hmm.
of the park. So the flashing lights are going. We're just not paying attention to them. So Ditka, what are you doing this Juneteenth weekend that you're not doing every day? Because I think we talk about it should be every day.
Every day, yes.
That we're doing something. It should be a call to service every day, not just once a week. Because also Pastor Hobbs educated me this morning was that it was the late state rep Gloria Fox who was the one to introduce Juneteenth as being acknowledged before it was a holiday to acknowledge it, because a lot of people didn't even know about what Juneteenth meant.
Yeah.
And sadly, it has not been a day where we look at what's happening, how we better our situations. It's a day off to go cook out and do things of the entertainment. And it should be a day of service. So, Dick, what are you doing to move the needle forward? And I'm not putting the weight on you, but I'm saying is that all of us, as President Obama and the First Lady said, it's us.
Yes,
we
up
tend
to the people. Yes.
to look at the politicians,
politicians.
right? There's not enough. There's more of us than them. We depend on them. They're not understanding that they need to depend on us. Because without us, they don't have a job.
Yes.
And we need to be just as ruthless as the orange man in saying, if you're,
You're
not
fired.
representing our interests,
Yes, you're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
We got to start doing that. Stop finding these fake representatives. We got to get real representatives up in there.
Well, in a true democracy, you're right. In a democracy that's actually designed where the people will determine who's running, as opposed to the people who are running to determine who's voting. You're absolutely correct. But the way that the Supreme Court has allowed dog money to play a role in our politics, and with gerrymandering, the politician determines exactly who's going to actually vote and how and who they want to vote.
Who they want to vote, but again, it's not over yet, and I think that's when the overwhelming number of people starting to vote. If they start voting early, start the mailing voting. Do not wait till November. Start voting now in the summertime when it's convenient, and it's not make time to do the voting now and start spreading the word, and then that makes it a movement, a call to action. because if you wait till the day of the election, you've already lost.
And you are on the same wavelength, because I was going to say, I'm like, you're the only one who can make your vote not count.
Exactly.
You're the only one who can make your vote not count. Make sure you're registered. Make sure your friends are registered. Make sure your relatives are registered. And make sure you are all on each other and hold each other accountable to actually go out and vote. Find out where your polling place
Your
is.
vote is your voice. So you want to get your voice, you want to be heard, this is how you do it.
Yep. 1 + 1 + 1. We got to get out there. No matter how it seems, no matter how insurmountable, whatever it seems, if you do not vote, you are quieting yourself. You're the only one who can quiet yourself.
And so, like I said, take the advantage of the fact that you can do mail-in voting, you can do early voting, and in that way, it's not, you don't have to sit there and wait in a poll in hot weather and stuff like that to pull a lever. It's like, they make it convenient for you to do so. The orange man, he uses the mail-in ballot.
Exactly. So let's read this post from former State Senator Diane Wilkerson.
I'd like to hear what
Boston, pay attention. We're in the weekend of solemn commemoration and celebration of the sacrifice and resilience of the descendants of slavery who built this country despite all odds. But we have some serious reckoning to do in Boston. This marketing video produced by Boston is dangerous because it's so inaccurate. Juneteenth is about 400 years, not 250, and it is about descendants of slavery and not immigrants. Where do you all get these ideas from? And whose idea was this? Black erasure is real, but will not be tolerated on our watch. Black erasure is what she's saying is real, but will be tolerated. But I understand her sentiments, but I just don't think that there's enough of a collaboration of people understanding what this is, other than that it's, today's a day to go out and barbecue and hang out in the park, and there'll be celebrations. And then, the problems that really our people are dealing with, cost of living, healthcare, education, will be here tomorrow. And on Monday, it'll be smacking them in the face when they pull up to get their gas. So what really, and a lot of them will be in more debt because they've spent money that they don't really have cooking out this weekend, like with everything, the cost of everything. And yet a lot of these folks will be up there, and you're right, there probably won't be one voter registration table up there, one table about education and the real meaning of Juneteenth. It is not just to barbecue. I mean, if it was just that simplistic, and that's the only problem we had was what we're going to have to eat that day, then we'd be in great shape. That is the least of our problems. So, Dick, again, my question to you again, it's all of our audience out there. What are we doing other than celebrating something that really we have not much to celebrate?
Well, as an observer of history, and also who's been doing this for almost a very long time, any major U.S. holiday in this country over the course of 20 years, the meaning and the purpose of the holiday vanishes. It disappears completely. Yeah? And another thing I noticed for a very long time is that once that history is disappeared or taken away, people become like, I'll say this in another way. It's like a tree. Yeah? It just stands there and doesn't move except it gets a little assistance from the wind, because that's what a tree does. It just does one thing. So if we can, as Black people, can go back to the basics of understanding that if we want to preserve our history, we got to teach it to the next generation and not letting it be so commercialized like how all the previous holidays have been before it. So until we get rid of the commercialism and stick to the basics of knowing and understanding the history of Juneteenth, that'll be the starting point of how do we preserve ourselves, not in Boston, but also in the country. And I'd like to thank Dr. Bradley for helping me out, too.
Thank you. You're welcome, brother.
No, thank you. But again, I think it should be a call to service, but not just, we get caught up in the day.
Yep.
That's why you always say, we work in a moment, not a movement.
Yep.
And until we get back to a movement, it's like when folks, decided to boycott buses, right? They didn't do it for one day. Yeah. They knew one day wasn't going to be enough. The lunch counters, they didn't do it for one day. They knew it wasn't going to be enough. When the pressure was on and people understand, because one thing other than the reflecting pool that's green is the other green they understand is, even though most people don't pay with it these days, is the dollar, right?
But see, like when I was a kid back in the 1960s, early 60s, one of the things I remember my uncles and my grandfather and my father talking about doing when they decided to march with King on the Pettus Bridge was the sacrifice that was associated with that march, the sacrifice in that community. So when we talk about movement versus moment, the movement requires sacrifice. The moment you can hide. You can hide behind, you can make a decision, you can hide behind your decision. But when you're having a movement, you're talking about longevity. And you're talking about being able to sacrifice. And my parents, my uncles, my they sacrificed to the point where they could not get work. So they had to go out and farm and do things on their own and depend on their own skills to create food for us. You know what I mean? And so when we talk about that, talk about what's happening in our community and learning about what's going on in our community, we got to be willing to make the sacrifice to make the change. The sacrifice is required in order for the change to be realized.
No, you're right. And short of that, we're going to just continue to spin our wheels in the mud. And we know that if you don't get some help or if you don't understand how to fix that problem, you just get there and watch like a hamster on the wheel, right? You continue to watch that problem fester.
Yeah. Which is why we got to find ways to, help each other up, right? Because that's part of why we're all
How do we
here,
do that, Helen? Because we talk about it to a nausea. We talk about it, but yet it doesn't seem to resonate with the people who are actually impacted more than we are. Like we could just be sitting home sleeping still instead of being in here on a Saturday morning doing this work, volunteering and trying to get people, uplift people and educate them about the plight that they're in. And we're not I know I won't be at any Juneteenth festival celebrations this week, not because of anti-Juneteenth, but we've lost the spirit of what it really means.
I think part of it is also with one way too would be to do it with and part of what Willie was saying with regards to being, in the moment versus being in the movement, right? I'd say one way to do it would be for those of all of you that are listening, right? That you have, of people that have a message that they want to send to the community and that they want to share and be able to let people know what's going on. I say reach out, right? Reach out and come onto platforms like these where you can reach more people to actually talk about what is going on. And so people know more. I think a big part of that how to activate is the education. I think the more that we learn and the more that we know about where we came from and what's going on, I think that's what a lot of the politicians fear, is that they fear us actually learning and being educated and knowing the truth.
But they also feed on division, right? That's why the Orange Man has been successful,
but
right?
This is why we need to come together and actually be able to talk to each other and talk to
that training that I went to a couple of weeks ago, the community activist training. That was one of the things that they said. It's like the opposite sides, they're willing to put away their differences because they have an agenda. And it says, but we, like any little thing will set us off. Oh no, this person did this me wrong. Oh, that person, they've been to jail. And it's like, and all of a sudden those little teeny reasons will keep us from working. And they'll be like, wait a second, like, okay, but those same idiosyncrasies that keep us from working together, we were willing to forgive and let go if it's the oppressor or the other side. Oh yeah, well they let them get away with it, but with us, we hold ourselves to a higher standard, and in that way we don't work together because that person ain't perfect. And it's like we gotta let go of that and just be willing to work with people.
Well, I always tell people good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and just not to interrupt that, Rose makes a really good point. Like one of the things that people keep trying to bring up is like, Wu is so big on Chinatown and supports Chinatown and Chinatown's her place, when it's not. When Wu's been asked time and time again what her favorite places to eat are or whatever, she couldn't name a single restaurant in Chinatown. She names a place in Jamaica Plain or where it's like, so even part of that where there's almost like this little tiny undercurrent of like trying to be like separate, whether it be like the Chinese or like other like Asian communities within Boston, separate them out. It's another way of that division, right? And them trying to say like, she's so big. She's not. She's hardly ever in Chinatown. When she does name places, she names the more touristy trap places there are.
But it works. It works. People fall for it,
But and the reason why they fall for it is that all these conversations are actually correct and they're revolving around the issue. This country was predicated on division.
Yes.
Yes.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, hypocrisy and division. You know, and so what we tend to do is that instead of us, we're more similar than we are
That's
different.
different. Yes.
We all bleed the same.
Yeah, it's like so if we actually focus on the similarities,
Yeah.
then we'll realize that there shouldn't be any such thing as 0-point gain.
Mhm.
If you get something, then that's good for you. That means that I can get it too if I apply myself.
Yeah.
They'll tell you that, but in actuality, they'll pull that away from you.
Well,
so
look-
we have
look-
to look at our similarities.
Look at how Diane Wilkerson is willing to go to Trump to go to bat against Wu because of how much she's seen Wu has done against the community, whether it be Roxbury, Mattapan, Dorchester, right? She's willing to go to Trump to get help.
Well, exactly. But see, this what I'm saying is that even when we put on the, all these forms, right? They have,
Democrat,
African American.
Republican, yeah.
No, they have African American, Asian American, this American. I'm like, but on the other side, you're just American.
American. Yeah.
Right? And we fall into that trap of, so now that makes it seem like to folks, you're less than, or you're isolated, you're in a different category as anyone else. And when
I would also argue, though, because I just had this conversation with one of my students, is that America is a continent, not a country. Keep that in mind. You can when you say to me America, I'm saying, okay, is it Canada, is it Mexico, is
North
it
America, Central America?
So when people say America, we think just of the United States. The United States is of America, is not.
And to that point, America was not always the size it is. It stole from other parts, right? It's like Texas and California and even Alaska, and Florida was part of Spain. And people don't know that. They're like, wait a minute, it was Spain? How far? Yes, because England and other places own parts of this country. So there was a map put together, but they wanted to make it seem like it was just one segment. I think we have the call on the line. Siddiqui, are you there?
I'm here.
Good morning, Siddiqui.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. What are you doing this Juneteenth weekend? First, let me say Happy Father's Day, my brother.
Well, appreciate it goes both ways.
Happy
But
Father's
anyhow,
Day.
let me just say that when you talk about Juneteenth, the bottom line is that the event up at Franklin Park, it's been up there for many, many years as a quote-unquote a very good family event. Now, what happened is that they attached the Juneteenth label to that event, but they never really injected the spirit of what it's about in terms of what I hear talk about what it really means. Now, yesterday, the actual day of Juneteenth, at the museum on Wallen Ave, they had the celebration up there. It was packed. It was packed with people, and the real spirit of what Juneteenth is about was celebrated. They talked about what we need to do. Now, in terms of, we talk about us as a people, let me just say this, that we always talk about people of color, and we can't do anything without allies. See, that's our primary downfall. Now, I heard about Mayor Wu, and, she's very disrespectful to the black community, number one. But don't believe that she's not doing some things for Chinatown. I talked to some people who know some of the power brokers down in Chinatown who have national implications. She's helping out. And the bottom line is that I don't hear anybody talking about, well, gee, there's a low voter turnout in Chinatown, or even this country was at war with Vietnam, but here we are a couple of decades later, and you go to up there in Fields Corner, the Vietnamese control that block. So the point that I'm making is that we have to make a determination that we're going to do for ourselves and stop talking about we need allies. And look, I'm not knocking the vote. Many years when I was down school, we were told that was the path to success and power. And what it is people, they see what's going on. They say, well, wait a minute. Yeah, let's vote, but let's not look at it from the perspective that that's the path to power. The path to power is that we have to circle the wagon and build a nation within a nation. Because I hear this whole, what was there before the vote? Our ancestors, when they came out of slavery, they rebuilt the family infrastructure. We had our own schools, hospitals, business, and what have you. And so we're talking about what we can't do. We can do if we, in fact, make a determination is that what we have to do for ourselves. But never mind this whole thing about we're powerless. We got a GMP at $3.5 trillion, almost $4 trillion. They said we'd be ranked as one of the most powerful countries in the world economically if we had that kind of ranking. So I'm just, I'm not knocking what's being said here in your show. I'm just saying that the bottom line is that we got to stop thinking, oh, well, we can't do anything without anybody else.
No, I don't think that's the message that's being conveyed. I think that history has taught us, though, we have not done this because they're saying all your skin folks ain't your kin folks, right? And I think that's where I'm saying, to me, I'd rather work with some like-minded people, regardless of how they're packaged, than a bunch of phony people. Because to that point, when you talked about yesterday how many people showed up at the museum, a lot of this is, okay, if it's on the mayor's schedule, then it's on their schedule, right? Because how many people will show up there if the mayor or the bougie are not going to be there, right? That's
the mayor was not there.
No, I'm not saying she was, but I'm saying is that because it's the Juneteenth weekend.
This was not the first year. It's a very conscious celebration talking about what black people need to do to move forward.
No, Siddiqui, let me just interrupt. I totally agree, but it's just how many times have you come on this broadcast and you've talked about issues down at RCC and other places and asking people to galvanize and come together, right? Wouldn't you have benefited from having like you said, it was packed, as your words, right? Yesterday. Just imagine all the issues that are going on in our schools and down in Nubian Square. If it was packed during those times, what an impact it would have, rather than just on the socialization part
Let me just say this. The bottom line is that we all know that only a certain segment of folks are going to step up. But when you talk about Nubian Square, the bottom line is that we were told there's no way in the world you're going to change the name Dudley. So the Nubian Square Coalition did the work. When it came time for the quote-unquote vote, the community at 87% voted in support of the name change. So what I'm saying is that you're only going to get a certain percentage of folks who are doing the real work. All I'm saying is that the folks will come on board if we lay the platform out there in terms of what we are going to. We're always thinking about, well, let's do it let's do it in such a way that we don't offend white people. It ain't about offense. No, other groups don't worry about offending anybody. They do what's a natural inclination. They say, this is what we're going to do for us, and then the bottom line is that those who want to, in fact, participate in what we're doing, no problem.
Yeah.
But we're going to dictate what we're going to do and not talk about, well, we need allies. That's all we talk about. I get tired of hearing about that.
Well, I'm going to let Helen, and then I want to hear Dr. Bradley's response to what Siddiqui has said.
And so, Siddiqui, I think one of the things, too, is I wouldn't fall into the trap of, power brokers in Chinatown, because there really aren't, many or any left at this point in Chinatown. They're really, in terms of what it comes down to, is like there are those that would want you to believe that there's this division, right, where they want us to actually be against each other versus actually working together. And it isn't about needing to have partners and allies to get something done. It's about just plain working together, because you're always going to have more of an impact and more of an effect when you recognize, like we've been having this discussion this morning, of more of how we're alike and how we can work together than it is that we work apart.
And to your point, Michelle Wu has massive, like I said, she learned from Menino. First term mayor, she knew, okay, I needed to put some black people in positions that look like they had some strength. And once I get that second term under my belt, a lot of them are gone, or their power has been diminished. And I've talked to many of them who are saying, hey, it's not the same as it was the first term. And even the first term, I didn't have a lot of leverage, but I have even less now. Mm-hmm. But she's now culminated enough power around the city where if you say something, so now your only contention coming in is your job is to keep your job. Dr. Bradley, I want to get your point. Then I want to hear from Brother Rhodes.
I'm gonna go from the history piece, because I do not disagree with Brother Siddiqui on this. I think that we have all throughout history, immediately after emancipation and freedom of the black people, we started to actually build our own schools. We started to actually build our own communities. So I'm going to name off communities here that I think that we need to understand that did this. First one would be Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The second one will be Haiti District in Durham, North Carolina. The third one would be Harlem, New York. The fourth one will be U Street, Washington, D.C. The fifth one will be 10th Street Historic District of Dallas, Texas. What these communities had in common was that they were self-sufficient.
You said had. How many of them are still intact?
That's what I'm saying, because they were self-sufficient. And because of that, they were attacked and they were destroyed, and they were burnt, and they were reburnt.
See the history there?
Yeah, it's repeating itself.
Can I just interject there for one second? Because when you're saying that, I'm thinking about the modern day version of that is gentrification.
Yes.
Because they can't burn you out.
Yeah.
Or
And
they can
look,
price you out.
look at even Chinatown now. It's like, how much of a favor does Chinatown have when if you've been there recently? The streets are so dirty. It's full of potholes. You know how much in disrepair it is. It looks like a section of the city that's actually being taken care of.
And I can't lose. Hold up, I can't miss out on Fourth Avenue's district of Birmingham, Alabama. But what I'm trying to say here is this: what the brother is saying is true. There's no question about it. All throughout history, you can see it through the emancipation, through Reconstruction, and you see it. But you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for the pushback. You got to be prepared for the and there were a lot of like the Deacons of Freedom. You had a lot of black men who were military men who said, "Hey, listen, KKK, you come here, you got something coming. You got something coming. So you got to be ready to fight for it." But he's absolutely right. Why are we not? Why are we not doing what our ancestors did and provide for ourselves? And part of that is voting. A part of that is going to doing the right thing. But we got to also worry about how do we deal with our own community.
Well, look at, you know what that reminds me of? Not to interrupt you real quick, but you know what that reminds me of? Becoming self-sufficient. Weren't we just talking about it a few weeks ago? Where with T. Michael,
People's Academy, yeah.
But putting a simple act of putting a trash can out on a sidewalk, wasn't it? And correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he getting like either like fined
tickets
or
and stuff,
tickets for it?
Yeah,
when he's trying to take care of his community,
but he's not on the team.
Look at that, right? So it's like even when we try to even take small steps to be self-sufficient, to take care of our communities, right? Look at what happens. But
And again, look at how history repeats itself. So in the sense of like what Dr. Bradley highlighted is like, okay, because you do have people that have tried that like as late as the 60s, and they were called the Black Panthers. Okay, they were patrolling. They like, you cannot walk with concealed weapons, so they had their arms out. They started registering people to vote. They started doing the breakfast program. They did the literacy program. So they again were trying to help out the community, and again they were made to be the ones to be the terrorists.
And to your point, and here we had it in real time, the January 6th insurrectionists, right? And now not only were they freed for their valiant effort on behalf of Donald Trump, is now we want to have a fund to fund that through our taxpayer dollars, right? And yet, so you raise a very good point, is that us standing up for ourselves. The other side, they said they're not apologizing. They're literally taking no prisoners.
Yes. So so the thing is, it's like, even though Mr. Shea is outside, but even though we do try to take care of ourselves, we do try to be self-sufficient. Like even with the case that you just said, T. Michael Top, he put a garbage can out to collect garbage can, and he's getting in trouble for doing that.
But he's also trying to put a structure in place that will uplift people economically and educational, and that is getting
so that is a problem.
Yeah, how else are people supposed to, like, there are so many more, I know of so many more families that were in Boston for generations, and so many people that have been pushed out. So many, like, whether it be Chinese or other Asian families, have been pushed out of Boston to Malden, to Quincy, to just out of the city completely. And that's part of gentrification too. Absolutely. It's where you push people out where they can no longer afford to live in the city, can no longer afford the upkeep, can no longer
there is a class component of this as well.
There's a class component, and there's a community component, because if all their friends and family are moving away for whatever, necessity and need, and then they also don't upkeep the public schools. How is it that we pay as much as we do in taxes, but our public schools are ranked 1, not a good one, it's a bad one, a 1 out of 10 one. 1 is bad, 10 is good. In that scale. But we're consistently one of the oldest public school systems, if not the oldest in the country, but we're literally in the ones or zeros. Some of them I saw were at a 0.
It's not a money problem.
But you know why? Because public schools are not meant for those that can afford the private or the preps, right? It's for those in the community that can stay in the community. And they don't want our kids, they don't want our communities to have good schooling and education.
Right. Is it Wells Street?
Okay. So, Dick, before we let you go, we've got a couple of minutes. Any final remarks from you, brother?
Yes, this is what you hear for Governor Moore Healy, and what she did yesterday for Juneteenth was an embarrassment as a Black American.
What was that? So,
please explain to us.
Because she's pandering to getting that Black vote.
That's what politicians do.
She knows she needs it badly for her re-election. And again, I'm not against the LGBTQ community. I want to make that perfectly clear. I respect them completely, but taking Juneteenth, that one day out that whole Pride Month, to say that she so-called cared about freedom and helping black people, etc., was a slap in the face and a smoke screen for me. Also, let's be clear, politically speaking, people, to the whole audience, start falling for the okie doke.
Yep.
Do the homework, register to vote, and we as the people got to hold ourselves accountable first. And then the people who don't do their jobs, the politicians, it's time to vote them out.
All right.
Because the days of us being in the dark and being dumb, deaf, and blind are over.
All right. We should.
Supposed to see the academy.
All right. Thank you. Diggy, you got about 30 seconds. I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, I'm just saying the bottom line for me is that I wasn't offended by the governor. Look here, all that other stuff, that's all the politics. I don't pay no attention to that. All I pay attention to is much of gentrification, like the growth of Nubian Square, what's happening. I'm getting calls from folks nationally now saying that Nubian Square, in terms of its potential, is becoming a model for folks across the country. So I'm just saying, once again, circle the wagons and do for self. That's what we got to do. That ain't being anti or negative, whatever. That's about what everybody else does, and we got to do it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Tadiki. Pastor Hobbs, I think we're done, right?
You got 1 minute.
Oh, we got 1 minute. Okay.
No. So, what I was going to say is that in regards to, again, us standing up for ourselves, like it's shown, like historically, every time we've tried to put together a movement to be self-sufficient, they come in and destroy it, either internally or external forces.
Don't let it, don't let it stop you. Just be like, hey, we got to keep going.
We do have to keep going, but we got to recognize that there are forces that are there specifically to destroy.
The more we band together, the harder it is going to be for them.
What happened with that is that during the infancy of your plan, and you planned for that.
Okay.
That's what I was saying you have to plan for that eventuality, because it's going to happen.
We've got to leave it there, folks.
Yes. Thank you.
Might this be an issue of
I raised that,
racial sensitivity, and then B, just in terms of, this is a question, disproportionality in terms of black representation.